Story RH, the podcast that makes a long story short.
Welcome to all.
History is made of stories.
In this episode, we'll be talking about how the Balanced Scorecards method can be used in HR.
People sometimes criticize HR professionals for being too narrowly focused on their area of expertise, to the detriment of their customers, business, and employees.
It does seem like a good idea to take the customer's point of view into consideration, and that's one of the benefits of the BSC method. So, what's the story?
When you're driving a car, the most objective measurement of how fast you're going is the speedometer on your dashboard.
But the kids in the back seat couldn't care less what speed you're going. All they want to know is, are we there yet?
And yet, it's almost the same question. All other things being constant, when you get there, depends on how fast you're going.
And, as it turns out, you can't go whatever speed you want. There are speed limits. And if you get pulled over, they don't care when you arrive, they only care about your speed.
As you can see on a single topic, everyone has a different point of view. There's the point of view of the producer, here the driver, the customer, here the children, and sometimes other stakeholders, in this case, the police.
There are other considerations to plug into the equation as well. How much gas are you using? At the same speed, not all cars use the same amount of gas.
So the question is, how much did it cost to produce the result for you, the expert who produced it, or for the customer who benefits from it?
And then you try to make improvements. In our example, you'd aim to comply with the speed limit set by the law, all while doing your best to arrive at your destination as soon as possible by changing your route, for example. You'd also want to try to use less gas by adopting more fuel-efficient driving techniques.
The BSC method, developed by Norton and Kaplan in the early 90s, invites us to consider 4 points of view: what the business process delivers, the needs of the customer, financial performance, and what you're doing to learn and grow.
For HR, like for all support functions, it's more difficult to evaluate performance, since the concept of the service it provides is harder to pin down.
Especially since producers often want to define what they do by only the result of the process they manage. Let's take hiring as an example. You could, of course, assess the hiring department based on how many ads it publishes, the number of hours of interviews it conducts, and the number of positions it fills or contracts it gets signed.
But that's looking at it all wrong. The purpose of the hiring department isn't to sign contracts. Managers don't assess their performance based on those criteria. Their satisfaction depends on whether they get the right person with the right skill set and mindset within the set time frame, and the person doesn't leave a few months later.
This point to different indicators, skill set match rates, retention rates, etc.
And if you look at the timeline, managers don't care how much time lapsed between when the hiring department published the ad and when the new employee signed the contract.
They're interested in the overall timeline, from when they filed their request to when the new employee is in the office, including notice time at their former position.
On top of that, there's a financial aspect. How much did all of that cost? But people rarely forget this point.
The final aspect is learning and growth. How can you improve in the future to hire better, faster, and cheaper?
To recap, the Balanced Scorecards method by Norton and Kaplan considers 4 points of view: what the business process delivers, the customer's needs, financial performance, and how you learn and grow. It's a method that can provide an interesting framework for HR departments to highlight, guide, and improve their performance. Is that right?
Exactly right. Way to make a long story short. Story RH, the podcast that makes a long story short.